Hello, I'm Kaiser and welcome to Moose Reads. Before I get started, I want to say that the opinions that I give here are my own opinions. They are extremely subjective. If I dislike a book, it is not a reflection on the author, and it is not a reflection on people who do like it. Different people have different tastes, and that's okay. Today I will be reviewing Gideon the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir. This is an adult, queer sci-fi novel. The description says, "The Emperor needs necromancers. The ninth necromancer needs a swordswoman. Gideon has a sword, some dirty magazines, and no more time for undead nonsense." Tamsyn Muir's Gideon the Ninth unveils a solar system of swordplay, cutthroat politics, and lesbian necromancers. Her characters leap off the page as skillfully animated as arcane revenants. The result is a heart-pounding epic science fantasy. Brought up by unfriendly, ossifying nuns, ancient retainers, and countless skeletons, Gideon is ready to abandon a life of servitude and an afterlife as a reanimated corpse. She packs up her sword, her shoes, and her dirty magazines and prepares to launch her daring escape. But her childhood nemesis won't set her free without a service. Harrowhark Nona Gesimus, Reverend Daughter of the Ninth House and Bone Witch Extraordinaire, has been summoned into action. The Emperor has invited the heirs to each of his loyal houses to a deadly trial of wits and skill. If Harrowhark succeeds, she will become an immortal, all-powerful servant of the resurrection. But no necromancer can ascend without their cavalier. Without Gideon's sword, Harrow will fail, and the Ninth House will die. Of course, some things are better left dead. I'm giving this a tentative 3 stars, I think. It's complicated. This book was a slow starter, in my opinion. It felt like 90% of the first chapter was describing things that I couldn't really picture and that didn't matter. The 10% that was Gideon attempting to run away was interesting, though. I liked Gideon as a character more or less from the start. The description issue became less excessive as the book progressed. More of the heavy descriptions became relevant, and there was enough other stuff going on that Muir didn't have to pad the chapters to get where she wanted to be. But I did feel pretty consistently frustrated that the things that were described sometimes really didn't matter at all, and a lot of the things that I would have liked to have had explained more clearly just never were. All in all, I didn't get really invested in this book until around chapter 10 or 11. Quite possibly, if I wasn't reading this for my book club, I would not have finished it, but it's hard to say. However, once I got to that point, I was drawn in fast and hard. I stopped reading pretty much at exactly that point one night, and then when I picked it up again, I spent the rest of the day reading and was disappointed when I had to stop to go to bed. And then I was subsequently very frustrated that I didn't get to pick it up again until late the following afternoon. Once it got going, it really got going. And then the ending happened. It warned me what was coming, I'll give it that. I knew well in advance how it was going to end and that I wasn't going to like it. But by then I had to know the details, so I barreled in head first. I did not enjoy the end. But this is the first in a series, and it had me hooked enough that I put a hold on book 2 at the library. We'll see how that goes. That's it for no spoilers. If you don't want to hear any spoilers for this book, now is the time to pause or close the video. For everyone else, let's talk details. I have a whole lot of small world-building questions about this book. Like, why did the Emperor abandon his planet, and why can't he go back? How did the locked tomb come to be, exactly? And is this our solar system? I suspect most of these will be answered over the course of the series, except that last one, but I didn't feel like it worked to hold those answers in reserve for later. We spend the majority of this book on the first planet, so it seems pretty relevant to understand why nobody is on it anymore and no one is allowed to go there except under specific circumstances. I felt like the second house got severely shafted in this story. I got a pretty good understanding of all the other characters, including the ones who die early, but I never really felt like I knew who the second were. So much so, that the morning before I finished reading it, I was trying to go through who the bad guy could be, and I couldn't remember who the second even were. The fifth die fairly early in this, and eventually we do get an explanation for why they were killed. Great, no problems there. But a little while after they are killed, the fourth are also brutally murdered, and we don't get any explanation for why. If you've read it and you understand, please let me know in the comments, but be sure to mark for spoilers. I just can't figure out any reason for it other than as a plot device to upset Gideon. The relationship between the sixth necromancer and the seventh necromancer seemed to come out of nowhere. Maybe I was just too slow on the uptake, but I didn't realize it was supposed to be a thing until Gideon started agonizing about the sixth necromancer hating her for getting in the way. I feel like this should have been better established, given how important it is to the reveal. At the end of the day, this book was a mystery. That's not great for me, because I am beginning to understand that I don't seem to enjoy mysteries. This is not really an exception. The final whodunit reveal was something the reader really had no way to guess. There were a couple of clues, but for the most part, since the lictors are never explained in any way, there was no way for us to suppose one of them could slip away from the Emperor, intercept one of the houses, and take her place. Honestly, until I read the prologue for the next book, and the dramatis personae at the beginning, I was sort of under the impression that there was only, one lictor left. Why didn't Gideon die? As a kid, I mean. We find out that Harrow's parents murdered all the children to ensure she would be born as a necromancer, but that Gideon just didn't die. We never get an explanation for this. Maybe we'll get it later, but I'm not sure how it's supposed to come up, given that Gideon won't be around anymore. Also, and I know this will get answered more or less eventually, what's the deal with the locked tomb? Supposedly, if it's ever opened, it'll herald the end of the universe or something, but Harrow opened it and nothing happened. So what's the problem? What was supposed to happen and why didn't it? I feel frustrated, is what I'm saying. I've got too many questions and not enough answers, and I hate it. I'm not going to give a recommendation for or against this book. I need to know where the series is headed before I can figure out how I feel about it. I guess that's the point, though, so I can't say Muir doesn't know what she's doing. If you liked this video, I hope you'll watch more in the future. Thanks for watching this one. Bye.